Okay, so we're going to talk playoff picture, and then Wilson can talk about the games when he comes in. 4 berths were clinched on Sunday. I believe that's correct, Breech. The Cowboys clinched their division title and obviously a playoff berth. Oddly enough, when Las Vegas beat Denver, 2 AFC teams somehow allowed the Cowboys to secure their NFC East title. But obviously, they didn't need it because they would have locked it down with the beatdown they laid on Washington, 56-14 on Sunday Night Football. The Buccaneers won the NFC South with a comfortable victory over the Carolina Panthers that featured lots of fire Matt Rule chants. The Rams clinched a playoff berth after beating the Vikings, and actually the Rams clinched a playoff berth for the Cardinals, who lost on Christmas night. And the Cardinals are in the middle of a 3-game losing streak that have Cardinals fans panicking, but they clinched a playoff berth because of the Vikings loss. Feel free to discuss any of those things if you're so inclined.
Well, good for the Cardinals because it felt like they were a meltdown away from missing the playoffs. So we now know that's not possible because the Vikings are going to allow them to backdoor their way in. The Cardinals might go into the postseason on a 5-game losing streak. I mean, it wouldn't be that crazy. They have the Cowboys and Seahawks coming up, both losable games. And, you know, if you're one of the top 4 seeds in the NFC, because I'm assuming that the Cardinals are not winning the division at this point, they're strictly a wild card team. You are like staring at that, and the Cardinals are the team you want to play. I mean, if you're the Cowboys, you want to play the Cardinals or the 49ers, right? You don't want to play.
So the Rams are at the Ravens, and then they host the 49ers. Certainly, the Rams could lose. I'm trying to. What's the scenario here? The Cardinals win. Yeah, the Cardinals would go 1-1. The Rams lose both, and the Cardinals would have the tiebreaker, or I mean 2-0, obviously. Or the Cardinals could go 2-0, and the Rams could go 1-1. The Cardinals need to make up 1 game, or I guess a half a game, really, on the Rams because they have a tiebreaker over the Rams in the NFC West. It does feel like, with the way Dallas played on Sunday night, with how Arizona has played over the last month, that if they have to deal with a decent team, or really any team, that they could be in some big trouble. So, and we look at Stephen O of Sportsline has given us odds with this game, this victory over Minnesota on the road took the Rams from 77.6% chance of winning the division up to 97.1% chance of winning the division. And Stephen O, by the way, love Stephen O, but he is a huge Ravens homer. If he could dial back the fact that the Ravens might beat the Rams, he would. But the reality is the Rams just have a much easier schedule than the Cardinals, who will probably have a tough time with the Cowboys and will certainly get a Seahawks, an effort from the Seahawks, even though Seattle is likely out of the playoffs. With the loss, the Vikings fell from 49.4% chance to make the playoffs down to 47.6% chance. Not a huge difference, although excuse me. That's hit their win total. I'm an idiot. Their playoff chances dropped from 21 point. I was like, that is not possible. That seems extremely low. Their playoff chances went from 21.2% down to 8.9%, meaning the Vikings are not dead yet, but they are very close to drawing dead. They have the same record as the Falcons, obviously at 7-8. New Orleans plays on Monday night. And then the Eagles in San Francisco, a full game ahead of the Vikings. The Vikings are in big trouble. With Philly's win, they can't win the division, obviously. But their chances to make the playoffs went from 47.2%, according to our Sportsline simulations, up to 59.6%. So, Debo, how are we feeling about the Eagles' chances of making
Debo was doing naked body shots of whiskey. That's how he's feeling right now.
Look, I thought that was a pretty pathetic 24-point win. About as pathetic of a 24-point win as you can get. I'm not encouraged about the Eagles' performance, but I am encouraged about their playoff chances and chance to make the playoffs after today. And then I think after what we see on Monday, it might become a lot more clear. But there's a path, and the path is pretty clear for the Eagles at this point, and they control their own destiny, which is great.
The Eagles are at Washington, and then the Cowboys at home. Here's the thing about, and you talked about this, Breech, of the top 4 seeds against, and so one, the Eagles are probably unlikely to get Dallas resting their players in week 18 because Dallas, with their win, they moved from the 4 seed up to the 2 seed. Now in a 3-way tie with the Rams and Tampa Bay, 1 game back of the Green Bay Packers. Dallas has a 9-1 conference record. The Rams have an 8-3 conference record. The Tampa Bay has a 7-4 conference record. That's how that slots out. The Packers have an 8-2 conference record. So if you're the Cowboys, I think, well, I guess you could pull your guys at halftime if the Packers play the Vikings in week 17 at home on Sunday night. If the Packers were to lose that, then all of a sudden Dallas is all in on week 18, assuming they beat the Cardinals. If the Packers beat the Vikings, I think, Breech, it's probably a scoreboard watching situation for Dallas against Philly, where if Green Bay were to go up to, let's say 3 scores, that's the time when you pull your players
or the NFL throws a curveball this year because there's 2 games on Saturday in week 18. You put the Cowboys on Saturday. That way, if they win, the Packers have a ton of pressure on them going into Sunday because they know if they lose, then they lose the top seed. And that would add.
You don't know what games they're flexing to Saturday. It's like
right. So there'll be 2 games on Saturday, and I'm guessing they'll do something like that where those Saturday games have a major impact on the Sunday games and add more pressure to those Sunday games.
Well, can we find that out right after week 17?
Yeah, usually they announce it Sunday night. Sunday or Monday.
They have to do that 2 weeks in advance.
No, not for the last week of the season.
Okay.
They do it. It's 6 days.
Did they do this last year?
They did it. I mean, every year they flex a Sunday game to Sunday night in the final week of the season.
I know that. But
so this is the same principle, except
you're moving it a full day, and that's a big difference.
Well, it's the same principle in the sense that you have 6 days to do it because it's a flex before the last final week of the season.
No, I understand what you're saying, but you're not talking about, fans deciding to go to a game on a Sunday. It's all of a sudden you're thinking about going to the Eagles Cowboys game in week 18 on a Sunday. Now it's a Saturday. You can't announce it 4 or 5 days in a row. We'll see.
That's what they're going to do. They're announcing it. They're announcing it. They have up until 6 days in advance.
Okay, so they can do it 6 days in advance. That's pretty insane. All right, but to Breech's point, it makes a ton of sense that you would take a game like Dallas Philly, where the outcome of that game would incentivize other teams to play harder on Sunday in week 18 rather than rest their players and to put those games forward. So I'm trying to think what you're not going to do I guess you could do I guess anything would work as long as there's one team involved but then you kind of have an unfair, if one team has to play sooner and they can clinch, you don't want to have a team lock themselves in that would then allow other teams to sit players in week 18. That's what the NFL is trying to avoid, I believe.
Right. You don't want to give anyone that type of advantage because then if the Cowboys lost, the Packers, there's a lot of, we were talking about the tiebreakers. If there's a 3-way tie at the top, the Packers have head-to-head. The Packers are feeling good about their tiebreakers right now.
Well, I'm saying an example would be Seahawks Cardinals. You could flex that to Saturday, and then or Rams 49ers. Actually, no, not Rams 49ers. Because if let's say the Cardinals lose to the Cowboys, and then you flex the Seahawks, and this is we're too complicated to deal with right now. We'll think about it and get back to you next week. The point being is,
let me ask you this about the NFC playoffs. Do you think there is any team slotted in right now? I mean, there's only 2 open spots. Do you think those 2 teams that are in there right now, the 49ers at 6 and the Eagles at 7, end up being the final 2 teams? Or do you think someone else sneaks in?
At this point, I feel like the only team that's sneaking in it's down to 3 teams for the wild card spots. San Francisco, Philly, and New Orleans. Right?
You ruling Atlanta out?
You throwing out the Vikings?
I mean, the Vikings have to play the Packers.
They beat the Packers already once? And the Falcons?
They have to play the Packers on Sunday night in Lambeau Field against Aaron Rodgers making an MVP push.
And the Falcons only have to go to Buffalo in January, in the dead of winter. They can't win that game?
They can.
It's really it's because if the Saints beat the Dolphins on Monday night, the interesting thing is because now they're staring at 2 games left, and those 2 games are the Panthers and Falcons, which are very, very winnable. So that would be.
Yeah, I think New Orleans can get in there. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess I'm scared to suggest that San Francisco won't get in. I mean, the 49ers have the Texans who just beat the Chargers, and then they're at the Rams. So the 49ers probably go 1-1.
I would say the Eagles feel pretty good though. They have the head-to-head over New Orleans. And if we feel like that's the only team, I mean, they have the head-to-head over the Falcons. Debo, is that everyone? Everyone important? They didn't play the Vikings, did they? No.
Have not played the Vikings.
Okay, so they have the head-to-head over the Saints and Falcons, and the Vikings aren't probably not going to go 2-0. So you got to feel pretty good if you're an Eagles fan, like Debo was saying.
If it comes down to it, 49ers do have the head-to-head over the Eagles.
Debo, as an Eagles fan, and you're staring at the seedings right now, the Eagles have to play the Cowboys in the wild card round. On a list of on a ranking of 1 to 10, how much do you want to avoid them, with 10 being the highest?
Bring it. I know that's not a numerical rating after the performance tonight, but which side? 10, I want to play them. Is that the rank?
I mean, if you had to pick between the division leaders right now, we'll give the Packers the bye since they have a game lead. Would you rather play the Cowboys, the Rams, or the Buccaneers if you're the Eagles?
I'm going to rule out the Bucs, defending champ Tom Brady. I'm not going to voluntarily play the Bucs in the first round. I would say Dallas. Bring it on. I like having the third matchup in a season. If the Cowboys manage to beat the Eagles in Week 18 and the Eagles still get in, we know the whole thing about tough to beat a team 3 times in the same season.
It's not true, though. It's not true.
But back-to-back weeks adds a layer of intrigue.
Now that I do think is interesting. Like when remember when the Bengals sat everybody against the Jets, and the Jets got in the playoffs and then knocked them.
No, I don't remember that, Brinson. Jeez, why would you even bring that up? You know how much I remember that? I remember that the Bengals, they could have changed their seed from 3 or 4, but Marvin Lewis is like, whatever, I don't care. And so they sit everyone on Sunday night. And this game is actually why they flex into Sunday night. That started because the Bengals benched everyone and lost like 37-0, and then lost again the next week in the playoffs, 24-14.
Yes. So
to Mark Sanchez,
and to the point about the actually, two points about the flexing stuff. By the way, one, I think you might be right. I think they might announce on Sunday Night Football in Week 17 because it's hard to announce. You don't know what games will meet the criteria to not give teams an advantage right now. They'll have a flow chart basically. Like if this happens in Week 17, did this happen? Okay, here's one of the Saturday games, and they'll have 2 of those, and then of course flex a game with like playoff implications on both sides for Sunday night, and then actually I think that's all I had. Only one thing on that. Smash that like button if you are watching on the YouTubes. Yeah, I think the NFC. What do you say? Who would you rather rank the 4 teams that we think are in the hunt? Arizona, San Francisco. Well, Arizona's clinch, obviously. Arizona, but the 4 wild card teams potentially: Arizona, San Francisco, Philly, and New Orleans. What's the order you want?
Like based on their chance of winning the Super Bowl?
No. If you're one of the top 4 teams, like who do you want? Like who's the team you want to see first?
I probably want to play the Eagles first.
Wow.
Well, I mean, are we? Let's say the only options are the Cardinals, 49ers, and Eagles, because they're in the slots right now. My rankings would be Eagles, and then Cardinals, and then 49ers. Because 49ers, I think, can beat anyone in the top 4, but they also could lose to anyone. I mean, we saw them.
49ers at the bottom, I think.
We saw Jimmy wet the bed in Nashville on Thursday.
Yeah, 49ers is a team you don't want to play because if they come out hot and that defense is flying around, they could beat anybody. New Orleans is I actually think your list is probably right or close to right.
Aha.
I mean, just the Cardinals are really talented, but man, they have just. Although Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts in the playoff game, that's pretty juicy. If you're, I mean, no offense, Devo.
No, and to be fair, the Eagles are one of the hottest teams in the NFL, but they also haven't beaten a playoff caliber team this year. The stretch has consisted of wins against the Lions and the Broncos and the Jets and the Giants and the Washington football team. they're not teams we're talking about in these playoff pictures. So to be fair, they're hot. Their offense since week 8 is the best in the NFL. Their defense is top 5 in the NFL since week 8, where this turning point happened. But let's be fair and look at the schedule when we're factoring in with the Eagles. Now, I think the ground game and the way that Jalen Hurts is playing is a good formula for the postseason. But I also want to present the other side of it too, and not be the biased Eagles fan all night here.
And to Debo's point, the Eagles are 0-6 this year against teams that currently have a winning record, and 8-1 against teams that do not currently.
Yeah, and they just haven't had a chance to play teams really with winning records since the beginning of the season, when we know it's not the same team and they're not nearly as good as they, or weren't nearly as good as they are now.
And to be clear, if the Dolphins were to win on Monday night, the Saints would certainly move down this list at 7-8. They would have an uphill battle, and the 49ers and Eagles are cheering hard for the Dolphins on Monday night.
And there's a scenario, this is courtesy of Bo Wolf on Twitter, where the Eagles can clinch a spot next week if the following 3 things happen, which is realistic: a win at Washington, Minnesota lost to Green Bay, and then a New Orleans loss to Carolina, or a New Orleans loss to Miami.
Wow.